I want to know if Emma, if you can hear me.
I can hear you perfect, Peter.
Okay, great.
I can hear you. Yes.
I want to welcome Emma Rivas to Marsy's Law interview series, Why We Do What We Do. Emma is having some video difficulties joining us from California, but we're going to plow ahead with Emma's audio. And Emma, if you can, okay, we can now see you.
Morning, everyone.
Emma, I just wanted to thank you for joining us. The circumstances around your being involved in the victims' rights movement is tragic, as it is with so many people who have become advocates for victims in the victims' rights movement. Marsy's Law, a little bit about Marsy's Law that you know and you and I have discussed is Marsy's Law was founded from out of that same kind of tragedy. It started as a movement that began after Marsy Nicholas, who was a senior at UC Santa Barbara in 1983, 21 years old, was shot and was murdered by an ex-boyfriend. And Marsy's mom, Marcella Leach, became an enormous advocate for victims' rights in California and ultimately all across the country. And her son, Dr. Henry Nicholas, then took the ball and really began what and continues to this day to be the driving force behind Marsy's Law, which ensures that constitutional rights are a part, that victims' rights are a part of state constitutions all around the country. The first state where Marsy's Law was passed, as you know, is California. As you and I have discussed, it gives you a little bit of a different platform when you advocate for victims' rights, because you're advocating for constitutional rights and not just statutory rights. And you and I have discussed how important that is for you. Now, in Why We Do What We Do, this started back during the pandemic days when we wanted as an organization at Marsy's Law to stay involved with all of the victims and the victims community across the country, because people couldn't get out and meet. So we tried to do something like everyone started to do in the Zoom world, to try to see if we could highlight people in the victims' rights movement and actually get behind their motivation for why they do what we do, what they do. And because we saw that the common thread was people had real life experiences that drove them to this kind of work. You are no exception to that, obviously. And then when you and I got to know each other, we started to talk about all of the different people that we have in common. Although I live in Boston, I'm a former homicide prosecutor, as you know, and I work with Marsy's Law now. We have a lot of people in the victims' rights movement that we have in common that were actually and have been guests on this show. District Attorney Anne-Marie Schubert, LaWanda.
Oh, yeah, I know her.
Jane Buffard, Colleen Campbell, and of course, Jessica Corday, who recently honored you. And we're going to get into how you met Jessica Corday actually as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how and when your life changed and you ultimately have turned that into your being a victims' rights advocate. It was September 25th of 2016 when you told me your life changed forever. Could you tell us what happened on that day, Emma?
It gives me chills to talk about that day, but September 25th, 2016, my life flipped around. It's very hard still because I am still in the trial of my son's murder case. The guy that killed my son is still sitting in jail 6 years. We have jail. My neighbor across the street sells dope. And
yeah, well, Emma, if I could probably just work with you on this, because I know, as you said, and as a former prosecutor, I can certainly understand where this is still an active and open case. Believe it or not, this happened in 2016, and your son's murderer still has not been brought to justice. So we're not going to talk about the facts of the case. I'd like to just talk a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit about the fact that on September 25th of 2016, you lost a son, and you're a mom.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your life, Emma. Where you work, you're a single mom, and you've raised three
Yeah.
sons. You now have two sons after having lost Christopher to murder.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and how the challenges of raising three sons, even before September of 2016.
Um, Being a single mom, and trying to bring three sons up to be productive citizens in this country. I did my best. My kids, they're not angels. I'm not gonna say they're angels, but they were brought up to respect others. They were not gang related. None of my boys are gang related. They were brought up, they were raised by me and my mother, who's their grandma. They always said they had two moms, and that would be my mom. But my boys were decent adult kids that had dreams and goals of being welders, all three. I was going to pay for their studies to become welders because I am a dock worker. I work at the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. I'm a dock worker. People might know us as longshore workers. And my life has changed ever since my son was killed. I no longer can work 40 hours a week like I used to. It's very hard to move on in this journey when your child is murdered, you know. I'm just able to work the minimum, what my job requires just to keep my insurance. Murder can affect everything about your life. You're waking up in the morning, going to sleep at night. It's a ever-changing situation when you're involved with murder. You know, the person that killed your child or loved one changes your whole atmosphere. I used to want to be a crane operator. Now I don't want to do anything like that.
Well, like you and I have discussed, the effects of murder go far beyond the homicide victim, and
Yes.
murder has so many ripple effects.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you told me that really touched me was when you said, um, when your son was murdered, the defendant didn't just murder your son; he murdered your whole family.
He destroyed. Yeah.
Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, one of my sons that witnessed it, well, both my sons witnessed the murder. One became an alcoholic, and the other one self-medicates. Um, I went into a deep depression. And I'm still dealing with that right now. Sorry if I choke up.
No, please.
um, my home was destroyed. My mom raised the kids. She became depressed. Um, but thank God that the Lord has been healing me, so I can try to heal my family to get them back into the society, to let them know that we're on a journey here, you know, and we're going to be okay. But it had to take me out of my depression to heal my, you know, one son has recovered, thank you, Lord. My other son is in recovery mode right now, so we're healing. My mom has decided that she wants to live in this world also, so there's a good and you know, it's good and bad, but the aftermath is very devastating. People just think that, you know, you lose your child and you just go on with your life, but no, it's not like that. Everybody affected by murder deals with it different, and I know my family was no different from any other family. We wanted to just go and die somewhere and just let it, you know. I thought that would be easier. That was the old me before I met the Lord. Now I advocate for murdered children and murder adults, and uh, I just want to be part of this journey with other parents or anyone that has lost a loved one to murder. They need someone to know that you understand their pain, what they go through. I can't hear it from someone that's never experienced a loss like murder, because I just don't feel the real empathy, you know, like there's sympathy. And yeah, Peter.
Yes, you talk about it, and you were telling me about the incredible people that you have met who have suffered similar tragedies in their
Oh
family,
yeah.
and how you said that
Oh yeah.
it is a bond that no one could understand, and it is a club that nobody wants to join. And when we talk about the ripple effects, one of the things that we realize is that murder does affect everyone, but it also affects everyone differently. And the
Yes.
way that it affected you, tragedy like murder, you and I have talked about it the last couple of weeks, can send people into a tailspin, can send people, like you said, to
Yeah.
substance abuse, and others it can
Yes.
have an entirely different effect. And you talked about the fact that tragedy had a different effect on you, and what you said to me was sometimes it takes a tragedy to point you in the right direction. And you said that you didn't know the
Yes.
Lord. You actually
Yes.
didn't even, you just talked about your
I do.
relationship with God. And you said, I didn't really know the Lord until my son was murdered.
Yes. And that is true, Peter. It took a tragedy in my family. I knew about God, but I didn't know, I didn't have a relationship with him. It took my son's murder to actually really, it didn't happen right away though. It didn't happen. It happened about 2.5 years later that I needed the Lord in my life. And I was angry with him at the beginning. I wanted him to, I kept telling him, you could have stopped that day. You could have saved my family, you know? My children are not gang related. I kept arguing with that with the Lord, you know, because I thought only gang members go after gang members. I don't know anything about gangs. I love tattoos, but doesn't entitle me that I'm I'm a gang member, you know.
Well,
Uh,
it's when you talked about how it it took a tragedy to point you in the right direction, and you told me how you've always been a very private person, and you said
yeah,
I was never one to think that I was going to be telling anyone about my son's story or talking about
yeah,
what happened. I wanted to keep that private. And I saw at a panel that you spoke at, you said I wasn't going to have a T-shirt with my son's face on it and walk around with it. And that's very helpful to so many people, but you just
yeah,
didn't see yourself doing anything like that and advocating the way you now do. And that
yeah,
changed. And you now tell your story because you've seen how helpful your voice is
yeah.
to others.
Yes. Yes, it's so true, Peter. Like I said on that panel, I had that shirt for a couple of years. I never actually wanted to wear it because it hurts so much to have them, on me. But it has helped to let other parents know that, you know what, there's somebody out here that cares about your child's murder case. And I'm available. I always let them know, where I'm at. I'm part of the Parents of Murdered Children chapter. I'm a board member, uh, and I just let them know that, you know what, you're not alone in this journey. I know it's not a journey that nobody wants to join this club. Trust me on that. But it's a club that can help us navigate life in this journey. That way, because there have been parents that have died of a broken heart, Peter. Many, and they're not told about because the media won't talk about the heartaches, which is, I'm not going to get involved in that, but our stories that parents dying of a broken heart is very limited in the news media, and yeah,
Yeah,
Peter, I did, yeah.
and you've talked about the Parents of Murdered Children, and you're on the board, and I think you're on the board of the LA chapter and the Orange County chapter, right?
Yes, and for Justice for Homicide. I'm just a member there, but I'm
Yeah,
very
for
involved in one.
and
Yeah,
and
but
and
that's
justice.
with LaWanda Hawkins.
Yes, and justice for homicide victims, and like you said, it's a club that nobody wants to join. Yet the
No,
powerful
no.
people and the powerful voices that you have worked with and that we have touched in our Marsy's Law world have lifted up so many and have lifted up so many families and helped them navigate the criminal
Yes.
justice system. And that's why when Dr. Henry Nicholas started Marsy's Law and continues to be the driving force behind it, he wanted to, and this is his quote, provide a more compassionate justice system for victims. Because when you become a victim, or when you become a family member of a victim, in your case, it's not a world that you've ever navigated before. It's not a world that you
Never.
ever wanted to ever be a part of. So it's almost like learning an entirely different language, learning an entirely different world with, and you're looking anywhere you can to get support. And so you found
Yes.
your own
Yes.
Emma Rivas, and now you are being the support for other people. And the Justice for Homicides Victim Memorial has an annual recognition. And it's also,
Yeah.
the memorial was actually started by, and one of the driving forces behind that was Marcella Leach, as we talked about before. And tell us about
Yes.
who was
Yes.
on. Tell us about who was honored there this past month, April of 2022.
Oh, yes. That was a total surprise by Homicide for Justice for I think it's homicide, but Justice for Homicide Victims.
Yes.
And that's with Jane Buford, one of the co-writers to Marsy's Law. And LaWanda Hawkins was there also. And they actually honored me and Deputy District Attorney Tommy, who's the trial prosecutor of Los Angeles, one of the top prosecutors of Los Angeles for child homicide.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was
Jonathan?
actually honored because I had no idea I was going to be honored that way. I don't do anything advocating for any medals, any rewards. I actually do it.
I think we may have just lost you, Emma. If you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes, we have you back now.
Yeah. Keep coming in, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think your connection is probably bad, which is part of the Zoom world that we live in. I
Yeah.
think I hear you now. Can you hear us okay now?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
we were just talking about how you were honored, and I can even just sum it up right now. The fact that you were recognized for the work that you've done, trying to help so many people right now. Emma Rivas is not.
go ahead and turn off the camera.
Yeah, that's fine. And what I was just talking
Okay.
about, Emma, was
Okay.
how you're honored for your work, not just for what you're doing on behalf of your son in your son's case, but one of the things that you're doing now is you're advocating for homicide victims' families all across California, and you now
Yes.
told me that you have, including your own son's case, 7 active cases that you're working with families. And
Yes.
you're acting as the bilingual translator to the
But
families and going to court.
yeah, one of the cases for actually 2 of them for bilingual status. Peter, can you hear me at least?
Yes, we have your audio.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I turned off the camera. Yeah, I am an advocate. I am one of the translators for the Parents of Murdered Children, the LA chapter. So when a parent can't speak English, and they'll choose one of the parents that speak Spanish. So yeah, I do advocate. I just go and be supportive for the parents that lost a child. Anybody, just like when I go to court, I need someone to be there to understand what's going on. And it's very, Peter, how heartbreaking it is to sit there and watch the parents look at the person that murdered your kid. I know you have firsthand how you see the victims, the families, how crushed they are. Well, I just provide a little bit of comfort. I break down myself too. But I just let them know that I am there for them. Oh, and another thing, Peter, a lot of parents, they don't have the support of their families anymore because it's gang related. They
Right.
don't want the gang's members. Yeah, that's another big thing I've been finding out, that parents of murdered children by gang members, their families don't support them because they don't want to be seen there.
Right.
That's so sad.
Yeah, and it's terrible because it's a legitimate fear, and once again, it goes to our point where you're thrust into a whole new world, and it's so difficult to navigate without the
Yes.
support of people like you and victims' rights groups like Marsy's Law, who are going to be there to support victims and make sure that they're heard. And like we said at the very beginning of the interview, which is the importance of Marsy's Law and
Yes.
establishing victims' rights as constitutional rights. So when people like Emma Rivas and Jessica Corday and Jane Buford and LaWanda Hawkins talk about victims' rights in the criminal justice system, they can talk about them as constitutional rights that need to be recognized and enforced.
Yes. And I'm thankful for those constitutional rights, because I didn't even know that we had constitutional rights till I became a victim, to a parent to a murdered child. And it is important that family members know that they have a support system that's in the Constitution that cannot be removed. Because, lawmakers keep making up more laws. And it's very important that every state has the Marsy's Law intact into their state. It is very important. And it feels good too, Peter, to know that we have Marsy's Laws in California. Absolutely. I agree with the Marsy Law. I'm thankful for all those parents that worked on that law, and you continue to work for them. Thank you, Peter.
Well, I appreciate it, and I thank you. And I just wanted to wrap it up with another quote that you gave me that I actually heard when you were speaking at a panel, I believe a panel in California. And when somebody was thanking you for advocating for your son, and I think it summed it up, your quote, when you said, "I don't just advocate for my son, I advocate for public safety." And
Yes.
so I want to thank you for the work that you do. We'll be watching your case. As you know, Marsy's Law is always there to support you and your family in any way. We know it's tough going right now in California, but know and be confident that you have constitutional rights that are afforded you and guaranteed to you by the California Constitution because of Marsy's Law. And always stay in touch with us throughout the case and beyond.
I will, Peter. I want to thank you for reaching out to me, and of course, I love Jessica Cordet. She is my inspiration to go to, Mom. When I saw her standing in front of the Hall of Justice, a one woman battle fighting for her justice for her two sons that were murdered, I just took I go, this woman, fight like a mom. Her hashtag is fight like a mom. I thank God for her, because she's my favorite anymore. And she's the one who led me into this direction. And of course, Jane Buford and LaWanda, we're very close friends, all of us. So we're in a journey no parent wants to be in,
Yep,
but I, mhm.
and
Go
like you
ahead.
said, the phrase that she has made popular is "fight like a mom," and
Yeah.
she inspires people like you because you fight like a mom, just like Jessica does, and
Yes.
we're right there beside you.
Yes, and I want to thank you, Peter, and I pray to God that all the states that you want this Marcy laws to be implemented into their state, I pray that it does happen, because it's very important. I know, as a parent of a murdered son, I need those rights to know that I have a backing from the state, and I need those rights as a parent, that I should not fear the person that murdered my kid. And nobody should ever fear anybody to go to court and feel alone, like you don't have protection. Thank God for Marcy's laws. Absolutely.
Well, we
Thank you
appreciate
for
that.
what you do, Peter.
I thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support, and like I said, our support is there for you always. That's why we started it in California. We're going to keep going state by state. So thanks for joining us today, Emma.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. I'm losing you, but thank
All
you.
right.
I will reach out to you.
Yes, we'll stay in touch. Thank you so much, Emma.